Okay, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about understanding your traffic sources. To be successful on YouTube, the first thing you need to know is where your audience is coming from, right? So traffic sources basically means audience. So let's do an exercise right now. I want you to go to YouTube Studio, right? If you're not using YouTube Studio already, it's a great way to analyze your content. So please start using YouTube Studio. Now, I want you to go to the analytics page. There, I want you to go to reach, right? In this page, you might be seeing an entire section called traffic sources, right? There, you'll have traffic sources such as YouTube search, browse features, and other stuff, other external sources, so and so. These two things are very important: YouTube search and browse features. Now, browse features basically means YouTube recommendation. Ideally, for a growing channel or channels that show us indication of growth, percentage of the browse features should ideally be the one that's carrying your channel. In other words, should be majority of the traffic source in your channel. This means that YouTube is recommending your content, and that is how most people are watching your channel. So this, for the most part, happens even for very small channels. If you put in a very specific niche, of course, if you put in a very specific niche, ideally YouTube search is going to be your go-to. But after that, immediately browse features comes into play, and then we have something called YouTube search. Now, ideally, for in case of say tutorial channels or channels that target a very specific niche, these channels might have YouTube search as the majority of traffic sources in their channel, and that is simply because when you have a tutorial, you are solving a problem, and that problem is being searched by people, and that's how people get to know your channel. This traffic source is basically people just searching up your content. If you're say putting tutorials out there, people search for your tutorials, and that is how they get to know your channel. Now, there's a very key difference between traffic sources in browse features and traffic sources in YouTube search. Now, if your channel is YouTube search based, that means there are two ways in which your audience mainly you get in. If your channel is very catering to a very specific niche, like organic mushroom farming, say, that's what we took up in a previous class. So in that case, people are ideally searching for your content, and then those people actually in this case will stick around in your channel if all your videos target the same niche. Audiences you gain in this are called active audiences, right? We'll get into active and passive audiences in the next lecture. So now, even in YouTube search, right, if that is your main source of traffic sources, if your channel is ideally targeting tutorials, right, those audience that you get from those traffic sources will be passive audience. Once a content value is satisfied, and that content is your tutorial basically, once that problem is solved, they aren't likely going to return, right? So those audiences are passive audiences. And in browse sources, ideally that also targets active audiences. So what exactly are active audiences and passive audiences? That is something a lot of people overlook, and I think it's worth discussing. On to the next lecture.